Hi, I'm Pamela Hyatt. I currently have an exhibit at the Carnegie-Stout Public Library here in Dubuque, Iowa for the Art at Your Library program. I just thought I'd show a little demo of how I do my painting process. It'll just be a quick demo. It certainly won't be a full painting or anything, just so you can get an idea of how I do it. So let's get started. I'll turn this here so you can see everything. Here I have a setup of some apples. So, and I wanted to show you before I got started that here's my palette. Here's how that looks. I wish I had a second camera to show you, as I mix paint, but I don't have that available right now. So I'll just get started here. I need to pour myself a little medium. Medium is just something I mix with the paint to help it flow better, and it helps it dry better because a lot of times it can take up to 2 weeks for oil paint to dry to do anything with. So I'll get started here. First of all, no artist likes to face a blank white canvas. So I'm going to first start with it by toning it with I'm going to use a little raw umber. It's just a brownish color. It just cuts down all the white. For one thing, you're not so intimidated by a blank canvas, and it also just kind of gets you in a rhythm to paint. A little medium with this so that it will dry up a little as I paint, because it's hard to work with oil paint if it's really wet and you're trying to paint colors next to each other. They tend to start blending if they're too wet. I have some apples set up because they're some of my favorite things to paint, and I just wanted to do a simple setup so I could do a quick demo. And I just love the red and orange colors in these Pink Lady apples. They're just beautiful apples. If you can describe apples as beautiful, I think they are. So I get that all toned up. I take a little paper towel and just kind of wipe it a little bit so it's not too wet to work with. Okay, then the next step, I just take a little of that paint. I look at my subject and just kind of place it on my canvas. I want to do like a tabletop view here. Some paintings you look down on them. Some paintings you look straight down at them. I'm not a big fan of those, but this is a tabletop, so as you're looking straight on it. So just kind of place where I want things. Here I'm going to put my first apple, my second apple that's kind of behind it in shadow. Then I'm going to put this beautiful red apple off to the side here. You don't want to get things too big in a painting. You need some air around it, or it looks all crowded and scrunchy. So this is just how I'm going to kind of place that. I think I like where I have that placed. I like that this one is just a bit off from the other two, because this is going to be the star of my show. Every painting needs a focal point, otherwise there's really nothing that your eye can settle on and look at. You want this one thing to stand out in a painting. That's why I have this set up so it's kind of shadowed on the side, so I can emphasize this apple here the most. I have a little green leaf here that's going to have a shadow on the tabletop. Here's the tabletop. And I have this little green leaf here that's going to hang over the side and make a shadow. I like the shadow that it creates on the tabletop there. So once I have everything placed, I have to put in like the shadows. We want to mark the shadows. One of the most important things in painting, I'd say the two most important things are to get your values right. Values are just how light or dark something is. And also, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, when you look at something, you don't want to paint that object. You want to paint shapes. That's a better way to paint something. It's easier to paint, and it will turn out a lot better if you just don't think I'm going to paint an apple. You want to paint the shape. So here's the shape of the shadow. And there's a cast shadow on that. You try to get it about as light or dark as what you see in front of you. You want to have some contrast. So this one in the middle is a little bit back in shadow. It has a cast shadow from this apple on it, and it also has a shadow on this side. And then it also has a cast shadow. We have a shadow shape over here. This apple is just a little bit more in shadow. At least that's the way I'm going to paint it. I don't have it quite turned that way, but that's the joy of painting. You can do it however you want. If you want to change the color of something or the position of something or take something out or put something in, it's your prerogative as an artist. So I have this cast shadow. Cast shadows are usually a little darker than the regular shadows. And then back here, I'm just going to kind of map out where I want my leaves. I think I've got leaves here and here, and an arc. The arc of the leaf branch coming down around here. I like how that arcs over this apple here. I think it makes a nice movement in the painting. Then we have a little peekaboo leaf over here. So when you start painting, you don't want to have this tone where you have your lightest colors or where you want the light to land, because that's going to mix in and make the colors muddy. I'm going to just wipe out a little bit here where I want it to be the lightest. Got a little highlight here. That's the highlight is just where the light hits most intensely. When you look at an object, there's always a spot that has the most intense light. That helps create a form when you have a highlight and you have the local color. The local color is just the color of the object, the basic color. And then when you have a transition into the shadow, that's what gives it a round shape. I'm also going to wipe out a little bit where the leaves are going to be here. But kind of know where they're going to be, and so that color can be pure. Got a leaf back here. Got one kind of showing right here. These are a little more in shadow back here, so it doesn't matter if I wipe them out too much, but I do like how this branch brings you into the painting. So it brings you into the painting and points right at the start of the show. That leads your eye there. You'll notice that if you look at a lot of people's paintings, you'll notice that a lot of things about the painting will point you to the start of the show. And this is what I want this apple to be right here. The next step, I'm going to put in some background. So I'm going to take some black. Black tends to lean toward blue. So if I mix it with a little yellow, it'll give me a nice greenish background. I don't want it to be too green because it'll fight with the color of the apples, and I don't want that to happen. That's a little too blue, so I'm going to put a little more yellow in that. This is just a beginning background. I'm not going to get too excited about what it looks like now until whoops. I'm just going to kind of put that in there just to get an idea of what I want. I'm going to make that a little greener, I think. as I go along, but I won't mark. That's not going to be my ending background, so I just kind of keep that thin. Then I'm going to make it a little lighter on this side, maybe a little more yellow, so it looks a little greener. Add just a little bit of a stronger yellow to this to make it a little more greener on this side. And I'll make it a little lighter. Whoops. And put a little medium in it so it doesn't get too thick over there. When you're painting, oil painting is pretty forgiving. You can make changes. If things aren't the way you like them, you can change them because it doesn't dry very fast. So it's easy to manipulate the paint once you think about where you want everything. And I'll put this make it a little darker up in the corner here so it doesn't lead you out of the painting. You want people to come into the painting through the branch, look around here, look at the other apples, come to your star of your show, and back around. You don't want the eye to leave the canvas. So you don't want it too light up in here. And we have a little shadow behind the apples here. We'll put some of that in. The shadow is usually darkest right under and right next to the object, and then it gets lighter as it moves out. Like I said, it may be a little bit dark right now, but you can see how it will look with the subject when you get it painted, and you can lighten or darken it. When you're painting, colors and values, which is the light and darkness of it, values are all relative. It all depends how it looks next to the thing beside it. I like how these are connected here with the shadows, and I also like that little peekaboo of light between the apples there. I want to make sure I remember to keep that in. Then we'll move down below the shells. You want to keep that dark and mysterious. And keep everyone's attention away from that because we want it all to be about what's up on the table. And here I have a green cloth hanging over the edge, and I can choose whether I want to show that green cloth or make it more about like a wood tabletop. I don't know if I like that wood or not. I think I'm going to keep it green, so I'm going to keep this a little lighter because that cloth is a little lighter. I'm going to keep that a little bit lighter, and I'm going to go toward more the color of the background. Yeah, I like that. It's kind of a little too green. When something's a little too green, you can just add a little red to it to calm it down, because red is a complement to green. That's part of the thing you think about when you're making a composition, is whether the colors are in harmony. When you look at a color wheel, red and green are in opposite ends of the color wheel. So that makes them complementary, and you know that they will look nice on a painting. Since this is cloth hanging down, I'm going to make my strokes this way so it looks like more like a cloth. I think I'm liking that green color better than what I have in the background. So I'll probably go more toward that color when I go back to the background. Let's put a little bit of that. Put a little red in there to complement it. When you put red with green, it cuts down the color so it isn't so bright and saturated. See how that looks. It's not dark enough. So I think I'll add a little black to that. I'm going to put that in there just to kind of cut down. It looks way blue. See how much bluer that looks after I get the green down here. That's how that works. So I'll kind of put that in there. So that looks a little bit better together as I go along in the painting. I'm also going to put a little bit of warm red in the shadow, because when you're working with north light, which is the best to do by, or I have a photographer's light, they're a cool light. That's what's best to work by indoors. When you have a cool light, you want the shadows to be warmer. Warm colors are basically what appears warm to your eye, like reds, orange, yellows. They appear warm to your eye, where blues and purples are cool. I'm going to put that table edge, and that's a little too blue and a little too dark. I'm going to make that table edge a little lighter in the middle here where the light is going to be shining. I'm going to have the light coming from the left, top left. So we want them to be shining. And then we'll kind of blend that because it is a cloth. If this were wood, if this were a wood tablecloth or tabletop, I would make the ledge more pronounced and have more shadow underneath. But this is a cloth, so we want it to look softer. See how that looks softer when you blend it out a bit. I'm going to make this darker over here because there's more shadow over there. I put a little of raw umber with my black to blend with that color on there, to bring in that shadow. So when you have the cloth coming from the edge, you don't want it to be light all the way across, because again, you want most of the emphasis to be on that focal point in your painting. So I'll darken that a bit. So we'll get that a little bit more refined later, but right now, let's move on. Put that little, get that tablecloth here a little bit brighter against that. There. Okay, I'm going to take my other brush here and move on to the reds. I usually keep my brushes separate when I have red in them because red is really can get away from you. You don't want it getting all over your painting. So I'll mix a little red here with some alizarin, which is just a darker, cooler red. And some raw umber, which is brown, to make a nice dark shadow for the apple. Now that's a little bit too brown. I'm gonna add a little more red to it. And add just a touch of blue to dull it down a bit. And again, these are shadows. You can see as you look at the apple how this side is light and the shadow is kind of like a crescent because this is almost circular. You don't want to make the apple like completely circular because no apple is like that. You want to pay attention to the shape of it. While we're here, we'll put a little shadow here, although that apple is a lot lighter. And we'll add this over here. This one's a little darker because it's a little more in shadow. So I'll put a little more blue and umber in that. And see, here is the warm shadow because we have a cool light. So we got the warm shadow here. And it's always adjustable. You don't want to lose sight of your cast shadow because that's what anchors it to the tabletop. We'll put that back in there. You also don't want to have these edges too sharp because it makes it look like the apple is standing on top of the painting instead of in the painting. I'm going to lighten this up a little bit here again. That's what painting is, kind of just a back and forth thing. Once you get one thing done, then something else might not look right next to it, and you have to adjust. So here I'm going to stop for a second and wipe out again where I want these leaves. Got an important one there. Got one up here going kind of sideways back. Got here, one here that's hitting the light, which I think is really nice. Put a little medium on my paper towel. And I also like this little peekaboo one right here, although I don't want to put a whole lot of emphasis on that because there again, we want the eye to stop here, not go out of the painting. So here we have this one that's hanging over the edge. I'm going to wipe that out a bit. Because although it is going to be green like the background, it's going to be a different green, and we don't want it getting all muddied up. We don't want the color getting all muddied up. So I got that wiped out, kind of. Here we go. And we're going to put that shadow in under there where the leaf is. If you put a shadow in under an object like that, right away, you see that there's something sitting there. It's anchored to the table. You want to kind of blend shadows because they're not, although cast shadows have a sharper edge to them than, one in a transition there on the apple. You don't want a straight line or it's going to look, once again, like the apple is sitting on top of the painting, not in it. And I'll adjust that later and make it a little darker, I think. In this instance, it has a little green in it because it's sitting on a green cloth, where if it were on a brown table, I would make that more of a richer brown with a reddish tone to it. Okay, let's move on to the fun part. I'm a really messy painter. I get fingers all full of paint. So we're going to move on to the fun part and the apple here. Let's start with the main apple here. I want to get the main shape kind of wiped out a little better there. So that is really a beautiful rich red. So we don't want to lose that red. I'm going to add just a little bit of orange to it to bring out the really red colors. Look how beautiful that is. And that is a warm color, even though it's in a cool light, because the light isn't right on that spot. When we get to the light part of it, we will add a little cooler color to it. I'm getting this a little bit too fat, so I'm gonna cut that. See what the beauty of oil paint, just wipe it out. It's getting too fat. Okay, that's better. So I'm going to add a little more yellow. Bring it around here to the top. The top is a little bit yellow. We have that little indent there. I'm going to put that shadow there for where the indentation is. And then add a little red there. And there's some red back here. And a little bit here in the top of the apple. You can kind of blend that up in there. These Pink Lady apples have just such beautiful colors in them, all kinds of different colors. I'm going to add a little of that orange in there. because that's what it looks like. And then when you're going from the red to the shadow, you want to make a little transition area there. Make that just a bit cooler and lighter as it goes back there. We'll put that in there. You can also take the background color that you have and add that in there, because that not only causes harmony, but it tames down the red color as it transitions back. So I got to fix this background here where I cut the apple down. So we'll just fix that up a little bit. A little blending up here. And it's okay if you get a little red back in here, because that's just going to add to the harmony. A little red comes out of the paintbrush. Put a little leaf back here. Let's see the other leaves. These aren't going to be as important. They're just going to kind of lead you into the painting. So I won't put a whole lot of emphasis on them. I have a little one right here. Sometimes when you're looking at the subject, if you squint, it's way easier to see where the lights and the darks are, because it takes a lot of the detail out of the picture. So I'm looking at this and thinking that apple's a little bit too bright here. Tame that down. See how pretty that is, and it's all blended together. Now the light on the apple is right here, and you can see just a bit back here where it hits behind where the little, I don't know what you call it. They call it a navel and an orange. I don't know what they call it in an apple. So I'm going to take a little yellow color, a little cooler yellow. There are warm colors and there are warm yellows, and there are cool yellows, which is kind of confusing. But if you think the color of a lemon is a cooler yellow, where you look at it like a sunflower, that's a nice warm yellow. So we're just going to put that light back here. And we have a little light here. That's a little bit dull. I'm going to make it a little brighter. I'm going to have a nice yellow and put just a bit of blue in there. Just going to put a nice light color there. Then I'll come in with red mixed with a little yellow to make a little lighter red there. If you mix white with red, it makes it really pinky looking, so you don't want that. I'm going to blend that in there. Blend it back here with this. Add just a little. I'm going to take a little of the background color and just put in that little shadow there. And then if we add a little bright red right there, where you see that along here, then you can see that indentation there. Okay, we're going to just kind of blend this together here a little bit. I'm going to put just a bit of orange and yellow mixed together and put a little color down here. Oops, that's a little dull. Make it a little bit better than that. Just kind of add a little more variety to this apple, because there is a lot of variety in it. And there's a little bit of a green peeking on the side there. I don't know if I like that, but I'll stick it in there and see what it looks like. I'll leave it. There's a little bright green in the back too. I'll wipe my brush off here good and get a little yellow and blue. A nice bright green right here. You don't have to worry about messing up the shape of the apple, because you just can come back with the background color and fix it later. That's a little too dark. I'll mix that in a bit. and go back. That's what painting is. It's kind of a back and forth. Okay. So we'll move on to the other ones. I'll come back to that a little later when I want to punch it up a little bit. Right now, I'm going to go back in here and reestablish this background here. Put a nice sharp edge where the light hits the apple. The light is hitting the apple on the upper left, so you want that edge to be sharp. But you can kind of blend in on the bottom here to kind of soften the edge. So, you know, once again, it doesn't look like it's pasted on. Oops, that picked up a little light there. Here. We'll soften this shadow back here. You can see when you first start painting, it can get frustrating when you think you're ruined the shape of something and you have to go back in, but that's just the nature of it. That's how it works. I'll come back to that. Let's go to the next one here. I'm going to put a little shadow color in there where it's casting a shadow from the other one. It's a little darker than over here. Oops, I better fix that there. There. It's a little darker over here, although the apple itself is a lighter yellow color. So I'm going to put that in and get some orange and mix that with a little blue. Get like a duller color. Ooh, I think I need a little red in there too. Make a little duller color to make that shadow there. This apple has a lot of yellow in it. So I'm going to put in that light shade there. I don't want to get it too bright because then it will compete with the other apple, and I don't want that to happen. But we can always adjust it. Like I said, when you're working at it, you can always adjust the color, whether you want it lighter or brighter, darker, duller. We'll take a little of the background in with that red and transition it. Oops, got a little dark. Transition that there a little bit. And put that little dent right there. That's kind of dark, but we can blend that out a little bit. And then we have like a greenish yellow. I don't use a whole lot of medium once I get going. Just once in a while I need it if the paint is too stiff, and this is pretty stiff and drying out. So got a little green here, although I think that might be, that's a little bit too green. So once again, I can add a little red to it, calm it down, a little white to brighten it up a little. Just going to add a little green in there just for a little interest. And coming out of that shadow. I'm going to make that a little lighter. Cut that in here. You kind of see where that little indentation is going to be. I should have a little music on, but I was afraid you wouldn't be able to hear me very well with music on. So I'm going to take a little pure yellow and show that light right there. I like that light. right in there. And then it's going to get darker as you get toward the bottom. I'll add a little black to that to dull it down a little bit. Bring it into the shadow there. Take a little bit of that shadow color. Fix the shape a bit. A little more orangey, I think, than what I'm making it. I might have to adjust that a little bit. Take a little orange and put a little of that on the top. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty. And I'll put a little orange on the side here too. That's where I'm seeing it. Like it comes all the way up the apple and then gets yellow right at the top. I'll put a little deeper red underneath here. Blend that in there. There's a little yellow or orange, I mean, back here. It's a little bit bright, but I can calm that down with a little background color. I'm going to put a little more orange up here to emphasize that color. It's coming out of the shadow. Excuse me. Yeah, that's really pretty. I like that. Put a little darker over here. Smudge out that. Now I can take that background and fix that anytime I need to. I want to fix the shape of it. Might have to blend this out a little bit. I think that looks better. Give a little yellow. Make that a nicer curve there. There we go. And I will again get a little of that white mixed with a little cool color. Make that highlight there. You don't want that highlight to be too bright and take away from the other apple. I'm going to put a little bit more color up here though. As the light goes across the apple, it makes that beautiful yellow tone up there. Blend, get rid of that little speck of white there. Here. I think I'll take my little palette knife here and add that highlight in there so we can see how light and bright. You don't want it to be, you want it to kind of blend over here. And that really makes the form of the apple. Doesn't that look beautiful? Love that. I'm going to add a little bit of the orangey red here in the back, just to kind of see the back of that apple a little better. It's kind of going over the side here. So let me take that and kind of blend that so it doesn't make such a straight line there. And once again, I'm going to go back in and reestablish this a little bit. You can see how our eye kind of jumps around the painting, and finds things we need to fix as we go along. I'll put that green back in there because I really like that. It's a bit of a green color coming down here too. And that's pretty. Yeah, I like that. We'll move over to this one, and we're going to make that a little bit of a darker red. That's how it appears to me. It's a darker red and not quite as brilliant as this apple. And that's the way I want it to be. When I set it up, I made sure that the prettiest apple was over here. That's what you think about when you set up a painting. You think about the way things are pointing. Like I have this apple pointing this way, this apple pointing that way, both pointing to the star. And this one kind of points in a little bit, which I'm going to have to adjust that a little to make it look more like that. And that's kind of thing that you see as you go along. I'll put this dark red in here. I think I will add a different red here that's a little more ready. A little more red. And that one kind of overlaps this apple. I'm gonna have to maybe move that over or make this, I think I'll make this one a little bit bigger. So I don't want to lose that little dot of light down there. So I'm going to make this one come back a little bit more, which it kind of does anyway. I kind of miss that. Just come up a little bit more. That's where that leaf is going to go. So we'll go back to this, darken it up a bit. And that's kind of overlapping that apple now. That's nice. So I think I need to make this a little bit smaller over on this side. But maybe just a bit taller. We don't want these to be too small and then look odd next to that one. So we'll make it a little bit bigger. And it kind of overlaps that one there. It causes a nice deep shadow right here, that cast shadow. Stick that in there. Here, ooh, that's nice. See how that makes this apple come forward and that one go back. So, okay, going on this last apple, I'll try to make a little bit duller of a red to add here. It's still a pretty red, but a little bit duller. So it seems as if it's a little more in the shadow. In this, I'm doing the local color again, like the local color is the color of the object. Got a little bit of orange in it though. Put that little orange in there. You don't have to have this completely dark, although it's more in the shadow. We still want it to stand out a bit. And I'll put that little spot here that's to make that point more toward this way. Put this red in. Make that little ledge there. Let's step back just a little bit. Once in a while, you have to step back and look at it, see how it looks. If the shapes are holding up and if the composition looks good. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I will take a little cool yellow and lighten that up a little bit there. Maybe just a bit green too to cool it up. Lighten that area up there where the light's hitting. Put a little bit of a highlight there, but I don't want it too bright. You just want to make sure your highlights are in about the same area. In fact, I might need to move that one a bit. There. Yeah, I'm liking that. So I'm going to make a little more background color here. Kind of shape this apple up here. So I've got a kind of got a little out of shape. I'm going to darken it up over there a bit to make it look more like it's coming out of the shadow like that. Still a little wonky, so you want to kind of blend out them edges. You don't want the edges to be too sharp on that side. Okay, how are we doing so far? Okay, I'm just going to work on those little leaves a little bit. We're kind of running out of time. So I'll show you how I put in some leaves here. Make them nice and bright. This leaf that's in the light right here. Might even need that brighter. This leaf right here. Leaves are a flat object, so you don't want to add too much texture to them. You don't want to have too many shadows and different colors in them. You want them to there. We have a little stem going up here. You can add that dark there. Dark edge there. And a little bit of the shadow on the apple from the stem. Doesn't that look nice? We'll put in a few leaf shapes up here. Don't want to get them too distinctive, because once again, you don't want to call a whole lot of attention to them, but they are a nice part of the composition. And lay that on that apple there. We have one that goes back here. See here, I'm looking at trying to get the shape. I'm not thinking about making a leaf. I'm thinking about that shape. I'm kind of trying to get that shape there. Then you try to get a bit of a sharper edge on the edge that's closest to you, so that will kind of bring it forward. Put a little sharper edge here. You can always make that smaller, blend it out. Put some more leaves here. Don't like the way that one was facing, so I'll just kind of make it go this way. Add a little darker color to it. And those who want to be more mysterious because they're going into the shadows. So I'll bring that down here. And a few more here. That a little bit lighter than the background, I think, but not too much. We want to keep that tone down so you can't see them a whole lot. Let's put some shapes down here. Put a nice shape here for this one in the back. And that kind of points that way. I'm going a little faster now because I know I shouldn't take too much more time on this. Have that coming down. And we have that one that's back here between these apples, but it's kind of in the light. So I'm going to just add that in there. Blend that in. Kind of catching the light, but not the whole thing. So I want to bring a little of that back into shadow. And then we have the one kind of peeking out over here. Have a little edge on it, peeking out. But we also don't want it to take the eye out of the painting, so we'll make it a little darker in the side. I'm going to reestablish some of the shadows here to anchor that apple in there. And that leaf is kind of in shadow. Figure that out. Kind of establish this a little bit more. And underneath this apple. When you're painting, you can really lose track of time. Time really flies when you're in the middle of this. Just anchor that in, and I'm going to put that little bit of light in the back, that little peekaboo light there. I think that's so pretty. That really gives you the shape of the apple. You can blend that in a little bit. Put a little, got a little reflected light coming up from the green tablecloth there into the, that's a little too light. Go back in there, blend that in a little bit better. And I'm going to put that shadow in a little bit better there. Like I said, cast shadows that have a little sharper edge. Where a transition into the shadow on an object is a little lighter and a little less defined. So I'll take my little palette knife here. Put some branches in here. Oh, I don't think that makes sense to have that going down when the leaf is over here, so I'll have it come this way a little bit. A little more into shadow over here. And I can take a brush that's a little softer and kind of blend. If I had a little more time, I would maybe change the background color a little bit more. But I think it's pretty, looks pretty nice. process here. If you ever watch somebody painting, they just can't seem to quit. They always see something they want to fix and work on. And, you know, I'll look back at this later on, or maybe tomorrow, and change some things, fix here or there what I'd like to fix. Take a soft brush here. Yeah, this one should work. Soften that out a little bit. Take this apple here, the main one, put a little reflection. Oh, I should have made that a little greener. The reflection of the green light in the bottom of that apple, and reestablish that shadow a little better. So I hope as you're watching me, you can get a little more of an idea of how it all works, how it all goes together. As I work on this, I will fix, you know, some of the colors and shadows if they're not quite right. I think I need a little more light on the table there. Like that little light under there too. Put that little light there. You know what? I think I'm going to add those, although there isn't a stem there, I think I'll add a little stem. I'm going to bring that up. Take a little dark, make the shadow side. There, I like that better. And then of course, that will have a little shadow on the back of the apple. Blend this in a little bit here. It's a little hard to talk and paint at the same time, so it's not a masterpiece by any means, but I just wanted to show you how the process goes. Put just a little bit of a reflection here. Blend that in a little bit. I'm going to put that shadow a little deeper down into the cloth here, so you can see that it's kind of overhanging. And I'll put a little ledge on the cloth here, and I think that'll about do it. I don't like how yellow that is. Get a little, ooh, that got a little wild. And you can also take a little of the color of the apple and the red and put a little reflection down here. Although this is cloth, you're not going to have too much reflection. So I'll go back in with that light green and blend that in a little bit. Make this edge here a little bit better. And one last thing, I'll just put a little reflection over here to emphasize this apple a little bit more. Bring that out a little bit. See how the red can kind of take over if you let it blend into the other colors too much. But so, see, I can't leave it alone. So I think I will look back at this again tomorrow and see what I need to tweak in it, what I need to change. But I think that's as far as I'm going to go today. So thank you for joining me. I hope you stop in at the Carnegie-Stout Library and see my show at the Art at Your Library program. 20% of all sales go toward the library. And I've also posted on my Facebook and Instagram that 20% of anything I sell on my website during this time until March 22nd, when the show ends, I will also donate that to the library at the Art at Your Library program. So thanks for joining me. It's been fun.